I'm going to do a new segment today. I've been gone for a while. I apologize, I really haven't had the time to get on, but I wanted to make time tonight to get on and talk about what we watched earlier because it's really aggravating to me, and it happens a lot, more than just in big-time title fights like we saw with Josh Taylor and Jack Catterall tonight. It happens more than it really should, and it is aggravating because I think everyone watching the fight at home, even if I'm a huge fan of Josh Taylor, I like him a lot. I think he's a great boxer, great guy, but when you get outlanded that bad, and especially the latter rounds, so in the fight by itself, he got outlanded 120-75, and I can see the argument saying, oh, well, boxing isn't scored by round, or it's scored by round, it's not scored as whole. Okay, fair. But in rounds 11 and 12 in the fight, 2 of the 3 judges in round 12 gave it to Taylor when he was outlanded, and Taylor only landed 3 punches, and all 3 gave round 11 to Taylor when Catterall outlanded him, and Taylor only landed 3 punches in that round. So I understand, I was listening to Dan Cabibio earlier, and he made a good point. As people want to say, oh, you got to take the belt off the champion, and you got to do this, and you got to do that. I really sit down and think about it, okay? Why don't we just score the fight like we see it? See, this is the corruption in boxing. This is what makes me so irritated, because I sit there and I watch a kid who waited so long for his world title shot. He finally gets it on the biggest stage of his life, in the biggest arena of his life, on the road, in the pound-for-pound guy's backyard, and he outboxes him and loses a decision when I think he dropped him. I mean, I could make, and this is an argument you could make against what Catterall did. Okay, Catterall decided in rounds, I guess, 8 through 12, he was just going to lay on the ropes, and Taylor pressed forward those rounds, which, to be fair, if Taylor were to be on his back foot, he would have got a lot of criticism, more than what Catterall was. But Catterall was on his back foot, and to the judges, it's like, okay, no, you got to go seize the opportunity. Like when we watched a couple months ago, almost 3 months to the day, when Kambosos took the belts off of Lopez, right? Kambosos just stood in the pocket and traded with him. See, Catterall was a lot on the back foot tonight, really shoulder roll. He was a sparring partner with Floyd Mayweather, Canelo Alvarez. He really shoulder rolled a lot, and he was just on the back foot. Nothing crazy, but he wasn't taking it to Taylor like Kambosos was to Lopez, and Kambosos got the decision over Lopez, where even I thought Kambosos had a wider margin than what he won by, but when you're in the champion's backyard, that's just things you're going to have to do, and Kambosos edged him out. Catterall, very similar situation, but he really stayed on the back foot and boxed off the back foot, and it's just kind of aggravating, watching that happen, because, you really care for the kid. Seeing him lose a decision like that's heartbreaking, but at the same time, you've got to take it to the champ. Other thoughts on the night. The undercard was terrible. The undercard was horrifically bad. A Scottish heavyweight championship. What was that? It was a fat man looking like he was ready to ride a seesaw against a somewhat Thor Bjornsson looking guy, or Bjornsson, my apologies, who could only throw 1-2s. I mean, it was terrible. Okay, the Donovan fight sucked. He got mowed over by Ramirez. Ramirez was a really good boxer on the card. I'm not lying. Ramirez is a good top-ranked fighter. But, I mean, the rest of the undercard was terrible. All the Sky stuff was awful. So, just watching that as a whole was just aggravating. But the whole event sucked, okay? And especially the main event, everyone's like, oh, that's going to go down as an all... No, it's not. It's not going to go down as an all-time fight. It was a terrible fight. There was so much grabbing and holding. Taylor boxed terribly, okay? He had no separation the whole fight. All he would do was he would land a jab. Catterall would duck under the hook that came by, or the straight left. He'd duck under it. And after that, he would just grab him. And he would smother himself where he couldn't land a shot. It was terrible boxing from Taylor. I've never seen that before. And it was really... It was really just like... and I can't even get the words out right now. I'm really frustrated. I'm just going off the flow. But that whole event's aggravating, and I feel bad for the kid, because I really do feel like the kid is a world-class boxer. He's not a British level. Do I think he beats Regis Progress? I don't know. I don't think so. But Regis Progress would have absolutely destroyed the version of Josh Taylor we saw tonight. And I think that goes without question. I mean, that was already a close fight when Josh Taylor was 100%. Ramirez would have destroyed this Josh Taylor tonight. would have boxed his brain off. If I'm Josh Taylor, I take the win for what it is. Okay, you get back in the gym. You've got to go to 147. You can't keep draining yourself to make 140 every single time. You're going to end up killing yourself is what you're going to end up doing. And it's just a terrible formula to go by. So if I were him, I would go 147, but I would not do what the WBO is recommending him do as the quote-unquote super champion and just go right into a mandatory matchup with Terrence Crawford. I think he's going to get his ass beat bad. I think Crawford stops him in that fight. I mean, no offense, okay, if Jack Catterall is putting you down, what is Terrence Crawford going to do to you? Terrence Crawford's going to brutalize you for as long as you're in there. And every time, and Josh is a top pound-for-pound guy, or was, I should say, and he could not adjust to just the straight left hand of Catterall. He just he'd get on his front foot, and then all of a sudden, Catterall would just pop him with a left hand from behind. He'd sit there, Catterall, and just wait, and then boom, like a cat, bam, hit the shot, and he flushed him once, quick. It was like a flash knockdown, I guess. But the point I'm trying to get to is this. Josh Taylor had a terrible outing, and Andre Ward said it best after the fight on like the ESPN Plus fight interview or whatever. We're very quick as people, just in general, I'll take boxing out of this. We're very quick as people to put people on pedestals and then take them off. So when I look at Josh Taylor, I wouldn't say we're very quick to put him on a pedestal because he's boxed elite competition, right? But we made the same mistake with Lopez. Lopez, we thought he boxed elite competition. It really wasn't. He ran over a Richard Comey who was on a bad night, and then he beat Vasily Lomachenko, and we put him on this pound-for-pound pedestal, and then all of a sudden, Kambosos comes on the road like 10,000 miles from his home and just boxes his brains off. Catterall came on the road in front of 20,000 angry Scottish fans who were, every time Taylor landed a punch, they'd go crazy, and boxed his brains in for 12 rounds. I had it 8-4 or 7-5 Catterall with the knockdown. I didn't like the point deduction. I liked the point deduction on Catterall. He deserved to get a point taken because he was holding. But I did not like the Taylor point deduction. That was bad. He was just kind of saying good round. The refereeing is a whole different story. I don't even want to get into that. That guy was terrible. He's about as worth. He's not worth anything. He's terrible. That guy should go back to the amateurs. He needs to relearn the sport. I hope we don't see him in another majors fight. But that's besides what I'm trying to get through. The point I'm trying to get through is this. Josh Taylor, we put him on this pound-for-pound list, and he has a very bad night. Okay, do we just yank him off the pound-for-pound list? I mean, he technically he still got the victory, but is he still a pound-for-pound fighter? I don't know, but he needs a warm-up fight at 147, and I say warm-up fight. He doesn't need a scrub. Like, he needs to actually fight somebody that's worth something, and then maybe challenge Terrence Crawford. He's ready, but his best-case scenario is that Crawford does not get the Ugas Spence winner, and instead Crawford just moves up to 154. Then he fights for the vacant title. That is his best bet if he wants any sort of chance, because I don't, in my heart of hearts, and I like Josh Taylor, I'm a big fan, but I don't see any way, shape, or form of how he can beat Terrence Crawford, especially not the version we saw tonight. Maybe the version that we saw against Ramirez that was very good in the clinch, closed the distance well, but the one we saw tonight, Terrence Crawford finishes him inside 6 or 7 rounds. It's going to be bad. It would be bad if we showed up and that fight happened next. So, just not angry. I'm absolutely gutted for Catterall. You hate to see that, though. And just going forward, I really wish that judges in boxing would be held more accountable, because it's decisions like this, Fury Wilder 1, Pacquiao versus Bradley, those kind of BS decisions is what it affects a fighter's legacy. And tonight, a career that could have been uplifted, Jack Catterall, is not going to happen anymore. He's going to have to go the hard-earned way and just keep going through all these vacant eliminators. Instead, Josh Taylor's career and his legacy was cemented by a guy who everyone will look back in 20 years and be like, oh, yeah, he ran through everyone in the division. But then you got to stop and say, no, Catterall got robbed. Anyways, thank you guys for listening to my little spiel. That's just all I have to say on the matter. It is aggravating. People need to be held accountable. Hopefully this doesn't continue in the future. Thank you.